What has travelling full-time as a family for over 7 months now taught us? That's the reflection that I'm going into today. And I'm going to bring Hubby, Richard, into this video for us to both reflect on that together. I said in a video recently that I'd made the Vietnam reflection. And I did. I made that video. But I didn't feel right putting it out. Because it was the boring, well, I say boring, it was the usual thing you see. What was the accommodation like? What was the world schooling like? You know, list of things that I had to cover in that video. And I didn't like that style anymore. And I want to take it away from the country itself and more like a reflection on what we have learned, generally speaking. What has travel taught us? So I think, 7 months into this, it's a good time to reflect and a good time to bring Hubby in too. So you can see the guy, the dad, the husband's perspective on all this as well, as the provider, as being in a family while doing this. So we'll see you over on the other side. So what has 7 months taught us as a full-time travelling family? For those of you who haven't met my husband, Richard, here he is.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello. The most difficult thing about full-time travel is doing a YouTube video with your wife and trying to actually set it up. That is the most difficult thing. Let's start there.
And also having time to do this. It's now 11:20 at night. So here we are, knackered.
Yeah, the kids love the life that we've created or we continue to create. And they're so full of life and they're teaching us that life can be pretty fun. They're just on it all of the time to the point where everyone's exhausted, including them. And then they won't go to sleep.
You have been on before. I think the last time we did this was we were in one of the Airbnbs in Cumbria, weren't we, just before we left?
Yeah, I think so. That seems like a lifetime ago now, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a whole 7 months. It's flown. It's absolutely flown. So, like I said in the intro, we might touch on logistics a little bit because there'll be people out there that want to do what we've done, sold everything, left the UK and travel full-time as a family. So there will be people that want to know a bit about accommodation and budgeting and visas and how you choose where you're going, all these kind of things. So we might touch on those things at the end. But I really want this to be more of a reflection about what we've learned, like what has it taught us to travel? Because travel teaches us a lot anyway, whether you're a solo traveller or with a family or as a couple in retirement, whatever, travel teaches you a lot. And so I just want to reflect on that over the last 7 months. So first of all, I'm going to hand over to Richard, as I've mentioned this in a video before, about the struggles and challenges and how I've seen that the struggles and challenges that Richard's faced having left work and doing this, and what I've seen from the woman's perspective. So over to Richard from his perspective now. So I thought that'd be interesting. So yeah, leaving work and doing this. Because you left work, it's not been 7 months since you left work, has it?
No, well, I left work last May, and what I used to work in forestry, which I really, really enjoyed. And I worked away, stayed in the caravan, and it gave us just enough money to survive back in the UK. We didn't really have a lot of spare money, and I wasn't with the family, but I enjoyed the job. So for me, it's actually been quite difficult for me to pull myself away from something I've done for so long that I really actually enjoyed. To sort of think, there is something better. But I've really struggled with the whole not working, between 10 and 14 hours a day, because I'm just not used to not doing that. So my mindset has been all over the shop with this, and it's taken me till probably now, in the last few weeks, I've kind of come down and been like, oh, I'm quite enjoying this life now. This is actually what I kind of think I deserve after so many years of destroying my body, all the aches and pains I've got from doing it all. And I don't know, the mental side of it's been more difficult than physically doing any of this. the decision to leave was quite simple. I don't think that got to a point where we were like, we don't really enjoy our family life at all because I'm never there, you're struggling with the kids, it's raining all the time, and it just got to a point where we were just not on the same page about anything at all, and this could have easily gone a completely different way of us just getting divorced, couldn't it?
I don't know. I
don't know. If I'd have said, oh, actually, I want to stay at work and live in my caravan full time, and you just sort the kids out, and I'll never see you, because that was the option. And I've worked for several people that were, they weren't together with their partners because their entire life was taken up in that job that I loved. I didn't want to go down that path. I didn't want to not see the kids. But it brought, for me, a massive mindset problem. I left work in May, and then we were busy selling the house, and it was really busy up to the point we left, so I didn't notice it at that point. And then after we'd left, I was like, even though we've got the family, and we've got each other, and we're doing this massive journey, there's still this massive hole left by me not working stupid hours in the day.
Yeah, but rewind, because we were setting something up at the time, weren't we? So we did a business course to like how to make passive income and things like that, and so we set up 2 businesses online. And maybe we need to talk a little bit about that, because a lot of people do this, like, oh, you're going to have to make an online presence and business out of it, or some online income. And obviously, because Richard was in a manual job, and not very techy, we both had to learn this, and that was the plan, set up these businesses. But as we found out, it doesn't always go to plan. There's so much out there, and so many people are doing it now. And again, it's like YouTube. I think you said that on your last video, didn't you, about YouTube is changing all the time and changing the goalposts, and it's not even giving you a real income to work off now. And similarly with online, I create digital products, and I've barely sold any, and you've got to have the right marketing and a lot of money behind you and everything to get that going. So it kind of fell by the waist, didn't it?
The simple fact is that, like, online digital products, online marketing, it's just so saturated now with so many people wanting to do it or trying to do it that you can't. It's very difficult to gain any headway at all in any form, and that includes YouTube.
Yeah, so you mentioned, didn't you, about making the jump was easy, and I say that a lot. Like, my friends at the time was like, oh, would you call yourself brave for doing this? And I don't think brave was the answer, because I'd do it anyway. 19, I was working on cruise ships, didn't think anything of it. The jump, once you made that decision, the jump was easy, but for me, the fear came with like, now what? And because these businesses weren't really established, we weren't getting any income from them, it was like, now what? Yes, we had savings, we had the house sale and things like that, but what after that? It was almost like, we've made the jump, but now what?
Uh-oh.
And it was like, that was the scariest bit for me.
But we've met loads of people that are just travelling for a year, and they've budgeted for a year, and they're quite happy. They're just literally using it as almost like a year travel holiday. And yet we were also doing that, but I was, in the back of my mind all the time, was like, but we need to earn an income. I can't enjoy myself, and I couldn't rest at all. I just couldn't rest, because I was like, I know this is going to happen quickly, and it has. In like 7 months, it's just flown by, hasn't it? And you're just like, wow, where did that go? And that was my fear, was we keep spending money, on we go, having fun, spending as much as we want, and then suddenly, it's come to a year, and then we were in trouble.
It was that, to me, from the woman looking on, from the wife looking on, it was like the masculine, that masculine energy, the provider. How am I going to provide for my family? I think that was the big thing underlying all this. So fast forward now, you've now got into investments.
Yeah, so I mean, we started this. This has been quite a long road, because when I stopped work last May, I knew that we were going to sell a house and we might have some money left. So we're like, well, what are we going to do with it? We need to do something with it. And I spent like weeks in looking at different options. Like, do we buy a little house somewhere, we discussed, didn't we, and rent that out? back in the UK? Do we buy a caravan and rent that out in the UK for holidays? And I looked at all of these things, and everything I came back to was like, one, we can't manage it from where we're going to be, and two, it's just a money pit. And if nobody decides to show up for it, then you're out of money and you've got no other options. And then when you do own that thing, the likelihood of selling it and getting your money back is also pretty low. So I didn't want to do any of those things. And so we ended up doing a rebel finance school and learnt about investing and ETFs and, you know, passive sort of investment funds and things which with compound interest that grows quite quickly.
And Rebel Finance School, they're on YouTube, aren't they?
YouTube,
and it's a free course, so you can go and check that out.
So
No affiliates, no affiliate links. Just it's something that's where Richard learned. And people say, "How can I learn? Can you teach me?" Well, that's where to go.
So I kind of watched it all, didn't I? And I was like having my head in my hands at the end of it, saying, "If I'd known, I wish I'd done this 20 years ago." But you can't go back in time.
No, but the blessing is we can, you know, reflect and then go forward, and that's the blessing when we're home educating or world schooling. We're bringing this in for the kids as well.
Yeah.
So what we've learned here with the money side of things, we're bringing forward with the kids, and you know, you talk a lot more about this on your channel.
Yeah,
Britain to Beyond.
It's more about, you know, trying to build your own financial freedom, and I'm not this kind of financial freedom guru. Follow me. Very much opposite to that. I'm just like, this is what I'm building, and you can see how I do it, but please don't try and copy it, because it's not like I know what I'm doing. I mean, more recently, the I've been doing options trading, which I've sort of taught myself as well, and been doing actually surprisingly well in options trading, which is our main income, and that's been working, and it has been for the last 5 months now. He's brought in a plus number in the last 5 months. And I'm actually quite proud that I've managed to achieve that. And actually, this massive jump from being in the UK and trying to work silly hours, get rid of that, sell everything you own, leave the UK, travel, have fun with your family in the sun, and earn more than you ever have earned. That appears to be what's happening.
And again, you know, from the
weird.
wife looking on, that whole change in that mental outlook is being really evident, you know, going from that fear, oh my God, how are we going to do this, how am I going to provide for my family, to he actually comes to me and says those words, like, I'm really proud of myself, and you know, that's not something you would normally come out with, so it's really good to see that happening.
My money mindset has changed.
Well, it does tie into this next thing I've got here, which is fears, and you know, security and money, that is the biggest fear. You know, all the comments on your channel, all the comments on all the other followers that we look at on YouTube and things, that it's always like, how are you going to fund this? How are you going to do that? And oh, you'll need the NHS, and oh, all these really, you know, negative comments. But you know, no judgment, because these people are living in that fear too. And we've had that fear. We've just made the jump and just thought, let's just see what's on the other side. Let's see if we can make this work. If it doesn't work out, we do come back, you know? Like, it's not the end of the world. We'll have had that time where we have, you know, enjoyed our lives, had a change of lifestyle, done it differently, lived a different way. If you know our backgrounds, you know that 3 or 4 of our parents died. And, you know, I personally take the stance now, having come out the other side of that, is life is for living, and it's not worth to be trapped into fear. And again, I will talk a little bit more about that, but you know, fears of security, fears of money, and doing the right thing. That's what I said in the last video. You know, we trap ourselves in our own fears, our own prison.
And that fear is basically, it's difficult to explain, but you're terrified of doing it, you're terrified of not doing it. But then when it comes down to it, if we fail, what will happen is we'll be back in the UK living a normal life as we were before. So you're back to square one again, and it's not, but you've had a nice
I think people think you're going to come back and start sponging off the system and stuff. You know, we'll come back and we still work and do all the things that we would have done when we left anyway. You know, we still got qualifications, we've still got all these things. So it's it's all going to work out. Like, it's all,
Yeah.
whatever which way, however it turns. But that's life, isn't it? We don't know what's around the corner all the time. And if all we keep doing is want that comfort blanket, then to me, that's not really living. That's just living in a bubble. So, should we move on?
Yeah, I think this journey has also taught us that you don't need stuff. I mean, we don't have a lot of stuff, do we? You have to tailor the clothes you're going to wear to the climate, and that's pretty much it. And you realise that my bag's getting smaller as you realise you just what do I need? Like, I've added in stuff like a fishing rod because that's time well spent.
Well, when we're getting to the point now of like giving each other some time off.
Yeah.
Giving each other some time off and starting to do hobbies and things. And again, because you've never really had hobbies, it's like, what are you going to do? And fishing was one of those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about enjoying the time.
Yeah, because my hobbies were fixing the car that I used every day, servicing your car, trying to keep everything we own in one piece, so we're not losing money on a monthly basis. So that whole management, whole life management of keeping everything in one piece, including the house, just, it's kind of gone now, isn't it? It does open you to like,
more time. What can we do with the time? You know, like
mentioned
that on the last video. You know, time is precious, and a lot of people now are actually spending money to allow them more time. So they'll buy they'll get cleaners in so they can spend more time with the family. So they'll pay for a cleaner 20 quid a time or something just so that they don't have to do it themselves, and they've got more energy and more time to be with the family. So we've got that, and so it's like a whole new world. It's like kid in a sweet shop. What we're going to do today?
Yeah, it takes a long time to get used to that as well.
It does.
Like,
it really has.
I've got a free day, and you're like paralysed by the fact that you don't know what to do with it because it's just so.
But there's still the shouldas and all this. Like, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. I mentioned that on that last video. What about community then? So community we've left behind, community we've met on the road, community we've got now. Like,
well, community is obviously important. I mean, just because you travel to a place, it's not easy to feel like you fit into it without having like other people to kind of enjoy it with, I suppose, isn't it? As a family, it's okay, you can do it, but it's nice to meet other families, and we have met other families. We've met families in Penang, which we really enjoyed, and we've met families here in Bali, haven't we? In Sanur
and
Langkawi, and it's the people also make the travel journey. It's not just, we've gone to this amazing place. It's, we've gone to this amazing place, and that's some really nice connections with some other families that are thinking very similar to the way we're thinking. So you kind of meet people on the road that have a similar outlook, and that it encourages you, doesn't it? It makes you feel good that you haven't made a terrible decision.
It is reassuring to have other like-minded people while you're doing this. And, you know, one of the things is, how do you decide where you're going to go and where are you going to settle down? I mentioned that on the last video, like where you're going to settle down, when you're going to settle down, and are you even going to ever settle down? And, you know, visas play a part in that, and determine how long you're going to be somewhere depending on the type of visa you've got. But, you know, we said tonight, didn't we? We had a lovely meal tonight with two other families, and, you know, we said the people you meet can be a determining factor if you're going to stay somewhere. And, you know, we've come across people that have planned their itinerary out 2-3 months in advance, and we're like, but we learnt that lesson. This is things that we're taught. You know, we learnt that lesson in Penang, because when we're in Penang, we straight away booked Langkawi, and in hindsight we were like, I wish we'd stayed longer in Penang, because that's where the world schooling group was. There was nothing in Langkawi. As it turned out, we met two other families there, you know, but everything happens for a reason. So
I think we're learning to be a bit more off the cuff, and we don't like booking things months in advance. So we've got to leave here it's less than a week that we leave the villa we're in now. We've got 1 week booked, because
we only got the extended visa come through yesterday.
Yeah.
So
we've got we've got 1 week booked, and then we've got like 2 and a bit months to try and find accommodation for in the next week and a half, I suppose. But that's fine. It doesn't matter, does it? Because you can't do one without the other. So
we had to wait for the visas to come anyway, and then it's like, we don't really want. We're going to Ahmed next, and we've got a week there, and we want to go to Lavina as well. But it's like, well, what if we really like Ahmed? Like, we can't just book a week and then book a week in Lavina, because what if we really like Ahmed and want to stay there? So we're kind of probably going to decide that when we get there.
Or we might come back here again. We just don't know.
Well, we've got these families that we met who are, one family's coming from Australia and living here, and the other family is probably going to call Bali the base and is looking to have the longer visas. So even if we do move around, we now know that we're going to have people here in Bali that we know if we want to come back again. So that's nice, and that's that community feel. There are other people doing this and on a similar path, journey and mindset. So
yeah, but logistics are just something that we have to deal with in the same way that when you're at home owning a house in the UK, you have to deal with all of the bills. Everything that comes with a house is actually quite hard to manage, isn't it? It's just, there's always something that you need to do, like, oh, the council tax has changed, or this has changed, or oh, the house insurance is up now, or has it run out, or oh no. Whereas here, it's just exactly the same. It's just like, oh, we need to sort some visas out and we need to work out where we're going to stay. And then when you get there, you then say, oh, where's the local supermarket, that kind of stuff. It's just, we get into a bit of a routine of the things we need to do every time we move, and it's fine. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about spirituality, and that's just because of being here in Bali, really. You know, one of the other families today said that their son had said, I want to stay here, this is it, like, I want to be here. So that's why they've gone and done their Kitas visa, I think it's called. So he just felt it, you know. And then the other family was like, Bali chooses you, you know, choose Bali, Bali chooses you. And it's really funny that they said that, because day 2 of us being here in Bali, we started off in Ubud, and we'd gone for a walk in the rice paddies, and then we stopped for a drink. And to keep the kids entertained, we went round in the circle and we said, like, right, let's go through all the countries we've been through, we've visited so far, and score it out of 5 and say why. So it was a nice little exercise to include the kids. I definitely recommend that, and get their point of view on the places and maybe where they want to go back to and things like that. So we've been to Kuala Lumpur, Penang, Langkawi, Hoi An in Vietnam, and then here in Bali. So, and day 2 of being in Bali, we all said 5-star for Bali.
Yeah.
We just felt it. Like, we hadn't experienced much at all day 2, right? So, but we just felt it. It was like this, a knowing that we really liked it here. So that's why we've thought, oh, we won't do the islands this time around. We'll really go around the mainland of Bali and really see what it's all about, because we've got such a pull to it, really. And I think one big thing was the climate. So coming from Vietnam, by the end of June we left there, and it was at 37, 39 degrees, and here was 10 degrees or more cooler, which, you know, I like the hot weather, but it was
just too hot, wasn't it? And it was just that drop in temperature was just
it was just you do stuff in the day, like you can walk about and not be dripping wet. And so I just wanted to touch on that, really, a little bit about spirituality.
Yeah, but I mean, Bali has its good and its bad points, and I think the longer you stay here, the more of an idea you'll get what the good and the bad points are. Like, it's taken me a long time to get on with Bali, because it's just so touristy that it's difficult to see past that as to what Bali actually is without the tourism. And we're struggling to see the proper sort of Balinese culture, because it's so kind of under the heel of the tourist-based stuff, which creates all the money. So
I think we haven't given, you know, you say that based on where we've been. That's all you can do with the experience. But it's not hard and fast. We haven't been off the beaten track. We haven't been away from the tourist spots, because we've said this before in videos, you know, we need to be where there's accessible to Western food because of our kids. So going too much off the beaten track would cause some issues with that.
Yeah.
But we plan to. That's what Ahmed and Lavina, it's a bit quieter up there and still touristy, but quieter than the likes of Sinoa. And we're not even going to go to Kutu and Canggu. I just think that would be too much for us.
Here in Bali, we didn't have any effects of that massive earthquake that hit one of the main Indonesian islands this week. What was like a 7.7 or 7.8 magnitude earthquake, and then there was loads of other tremors and stuff, and there's caused considerable damage, and quite a number of people have died. So you've got to remember that we're living in a more volatile area of the world in terms of nature. We've got things like tsunami warning sirens and things here, so luckily none of that happened, but it could easily happen. So I think we've got to be aware of that as we're travelling around and looking at all the different places. We're like, we're aware that the big tsunami hit Malaysia the same time it hit Thailand all those years ago. It could happen here. It could, So we have to take all of that into account as well, I think, as we're travelling around.
It's definitely something we're learning about, all these volcanoes and earthquakes and things like that. And it's a good, again, teaching point for the kids too. We did that, didn't we, when we were in Penang, I think we did about earthquakes and stuff, knowing that we were going to come down this way. So the biggest thing I think that we've learnt from this is to just do us. I've always listened to my elders. I've always listened to what other people have to say on things, and then I sort of make my own mind up or whatever. But with a few things I'll come on to, but a few things it was like I was listening to other people more than us, because we hadn't done it. So it was like, oh well, they've done it, they must know how, or we'll try and do this next time, and then realising that's not for us, and we shouldn't have really listened. We should have just listened to ourselves. So I think that's the big thing. It's listen to the advice, listen to some of the YouTube channels and things like that. But at the end of the day, like 7 months in, it's like realising it's your choice and your life and your decisions. So you don't have to follow the rest of the people. And
that we're completely capable of actually doing it ourselves. We don't need help from anybody else to tell us how to do things.
I think it's just the early days though. Right, so my example of this is accommodation. So I'm just going to briefly talk about logistics, because there'll be people that want to watch some of this stuff, but I don't want it to be all about that. So accommodation, we started out with Airbnbs, and then we'd get to Penang and we'd come to meet families that were spending half as much a month on the same place we were in, and we're like, what? And that's because they were on a year contract, and then used that as the base, travelled, did the visa runs, whatever, came back, and that's how they got it really cheap. So when we moved on to Langkawi, and the Airbnb didn't work out that we had there, we thought, oh well, knowing this extra information, we will go and get a rented place and it'll be a lot cheaper. And it actually was in Langkawi. But we only did it for 2 months, so then we were like, we could probably get it cheaper. So then when we got to Vietnam, it was a case of, right, we're doing 3 months in one place in Hoi An, and we can get this cheap. So we were like, let's get a rental. I mean, that is a story in itself. It took us ages to find a place. And then when we did find it was cheaper, but we had 3 months with a month deposit, so we had to pay 4 months up front. And then we weren't sure when it came to leaving, because we broke contract, we left a month early. Are we going to get it back? And so there was all that, and you don't have the security you do if you're with like Airbnb and stuff. So we had so much stress going through rented stuff that when it came to Bali again, it's like, right, let's have a break from trying to get the cheapest place, and let's just do Airbnbs. Because you've got that backup. And the hindsight thing, the biggest thing for me is go to the places, do the Airbnbs, make it easy, go to the places, and then when you're going back around and you're on your second cycle or whatever, or you've found a place that you want to call base, that's when you go looking for these rental places, because you know exactly where you want to be and exactly where you don't want to be, and you've got your own family's criteria that you know better, and that will get you the better rental, because that place we got wasn't right for us, and we just jumped on it because it was cheap and because time was running out. So I think that's the biggest lesson I've
Every
learned.
place is different. Like every country we've been has been different in the way things are done, very slightly. And in Malaysia, booking stuff really worked quite well. Booking with local agents and you know, because there was a massive glut of accommodation, nice and easy. But as soon as you get into more touristy areas like Hoi An, specifically in Vietnam, and then Bali, they're just not there, and the prices are so much higher that you don't gain much by trying to fish around and get that accommodation with an agent. So some places it depends on the place, doesn't it, as to how you book accommodation. You get a feel for it.
And then sort of finances, you know, we've touched on how you're going to support yourself doing this and how we have now, but the biggest thing that's helped us with regards to finances, I think, is budgeting. So I'm not good on the investment side of things, that's Richard's forte, but I'm quite good at budgeting. And we've used a number of budgeting apps since we started this, and what I struggled with every one of them was when it came to, like, I use the envelope kind of budget apps, and when it came to the next month, how to keep the envelopes but clear it all, and also keep that data as well from the last month, that was an issue. And then other little things like currency converters, that was a separate app that we'd have to use, and things like this. So you, with your little hyper-focusing...
I went completely and utterly nuts. I just couldn't get on with any of these budgeting apps and these currency converters. Like, currency converters were coming up with adverts that ruined your phone and you couldn't get rid of it without turning your phone off. It was driving me absolutely nuts, and I can't stand the envelope apps and having to put separate amounts in each envelope and then not using half of it, and then it was just rubbish. So I went a bit nuts when we were in Vietnam, didn't I? I was like, I can't stand this any longer. I'm going to make my own app, which does all the stuff that I wanted to do. And I did. I've built my own Nomad budget app now. And if you go onto my YouTube channel,
I'll link it here.
We'll link it here as well. You can go and have a look at it and download it and add it to your home screen like a proper app. And it's got currency converter and ways of splitting sort of accommodation over as many months as you want. All kinds of different things, isn't it? So
Visa, how many days left
Visa
you've got on your
tracker.
visa tracker, that's it,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's actually a lot of things that we were missing in some of the apps that we were using.
It's not a budget app, it's an all-round finance management app, isn't it? Because you can put your income in and your budget, and it calculates what you spent, and it just tells you how healthy your finances are. So, you know, so if you look at it when, you know, you spent loads in one month, you're like, yeah, it just tells you, like, yeah, you've not done so well this month, it's a bit unhealthy. Try and get back on track next month, that kind of thing. And it keeps all the information so you can toggle between the months. You don't have to save them, it's already there. You just toggle to the next month to use the next month. You can put things in advance as well. So if you know you've got costs in future, you just put them in future before you forget.
Yeah, that's really handy.
You can add in fixed costs that just appear in every month. So you never have to put them in again. You know, it's
worth checking out.
It works quite well for us. And
they're not for everyone, you know, budget
Yeah.
apps or any kind of these kind of apps aren't for everyone. But if you want to make your money last, and, you know, because we've met world schoolers that are on a massive budget, you know, they can live off 10 grand a month or something. Well, that's not us, you know.
No.
So we have to make that money go a bit longer to make this work. So, but that is one thing that it's highlighted, isn't it? That everybody's budget is so different. You know, you think world schoolers probably don't have a big budget, and then you speak to people and you think, actually, they do. There's people that have got, they're paying for nannies, or they're putting the kids into international schools, or these hubs, which are really quite expensive.
Yeah.
So you understand that they've got some money, some of these people. But if you're like us and you are just doing this with the similar amount of money that you had when you were back in your home country, then these apps are quite good for that.
I think we've also discovered that budgeting in different countries, again, is massively different, because, like, Vietnam was actually relatively cheap. When you compare it to Bali, you come to Bali, the rents are massively more, and it's actually incredibly expensive, Bali, compared to anywhere else we've been.
But I think we have to be aware that that is the time of year that we're at as well. So the different time of year, you can't just say this country is expensive and that's not. You've got to factor in that we've moved on throughout the year, and we are in peak season as we hit Bali too. So, but I think, you know, in hindsight, looking at and hearing what other people have said, you know, Hoi An in Vietnam was a lot cheaper 2 years ago, and not as much demand for accommodation. So it's all getting really high demand now, high costs. A lot of places are, where the tourist people are wanting to go.
Yeah.
That's where it's getting difficult to get any accommodation and cost of it.
And I think this lifestyle is actually becoming more and more attractive to a lot more people as things get more difficult in specifically Western sort of countries, with everything going up in price and the way things are going. People are just like, they're thinking, why would I want to live like this anymore?
There's got to be more to life than this.
Yeah, it's like, this isn't sustainable anymore, so let's try something else. And there's definitely more people doing this.
Yeah. And then, we touched on that a little bit. Let's talk a bit on visas. And visas are like YouTube at the minute, aren't they? Forever
they keep
changing.
yeah.
Thailand's entry visa for UK, this is going soon. It's not official yet, but it's going from 60 days to 30 days. I'd heard as we left Vietnam that your entry visa is going from 30 days to 14 days, so they're changing these rules all the time, and you've got to keep ahead of it. We say to like chat, what's the visa for this? Is this coming yet? No, they're thinking of that. It's not coming yet. Keep an eye on it. You're always checking these visas. And again, this question of where next and how you choose. Again, I did a video on that back when we had left Malaysia. Actually, I did a video titled "Where Next," and we've touched on that. The community, friends that you've got, that helps you decide where next. The world schooling, that helps you decide where you might go next. Like, what kind of world schooling are you looking for? So we've seen a difference of social meetups, more structured meetups, and just like very informal community gatherings. So we've kind of seen a breadth of how different places have opportunities to world school differently or get together with world schooling communities. But that can decide where you're going to go next. I mean, that's what decided for us to just spend the 3 months in, or 2.5 months in Hoi An, because of the world schooling.
But what else we've done is typed into AI and gone, where is it not 39 degrees? Because we don't want to go there. So we've basically been sort of like, where is the weather the best for us? Where is it like mid-20s or high 20s? And, where you can actually exist without, just becoming a giant drip. Where can you go? And it'll give you an itinerary of where you can travel that fits that criteria. What time of year? So what time of year should you go to Thailand so it's not too hot? And the same with Vietnam. But then you don't want to go to Vietnam at this time because basically it's going to be flooded most of the time. So that's got you can follow the weather around and go where you want based on that. And that's quite handy, isn't it? Yeah. Because I didn't realise that. I was like, yeah, we'll just travel and we'll just go country. And I hadn't thought, because of living in the UK, we don't really have an issue with heat, do we? That's one thing. Well, apparently we do at the moment, so that's weird. But it's not something that I ever thought would be a problem.
Yeah. And I think that's it, really, What has it taught us? It's taught us that there's another way of life, that there's a way that we can be together as a family more. It's taught us that there's more than our job, more than the 9 to 5, more than just making money. Life is short, and it's up to us how we live it. It's up to you how you live your life. And travel opens you up to that, and it opens you up to meeting so many amazing people and cultures, and we haven't looked back. We haven't regretted any of this. I'm getting goosebumps now because we've said it tonight to these other families, like we don't miss it one bit, not one bit.
No.
And it's just it's allowed the time to really sit with who you are and what you want to do with your life and your time, and really be more present with family as well.
I think my last point is that there was someone that did a video on Facebook saying that he used to be one of the people that kind of took the piss out of people like us that travelled and did what they wanted and all this kind of stuff. And then he's become one of those people. He decided what he wanted to do, took his family out of Australia, ended up in Bali, now lives in Bali for most of the time and occasionally bobs back to Australia. And he's now the guy that's got a vision board and all this kind of stuff. But he's actually created his like ideal life by just getting on and doing it. Nobody's giving it to him. So I think that's interesting. The only way you can do it is do it by yourself. You can do it, I think is the point.
Yeah.
No one's going to do it for you, and it is possible. But I never imagined living like this, I must admit, originally. Never entered my mind. So.
It's allowing that, you know, what would you do with your life if you weren't tied to anything, anyone, responsibilities, time, money, anything? What would you do with your life, and how would you do it differently? It doesn't have to be as dramatic as this, but it can be like, you know, what would you add into it, or what do you take away? And having this time out from the busy, hectic life has allowed us to do that. And I'm just wondering if people have found this interesting, hopefully, not too boring. We'd be maybe open to do a Q&A live.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I haven't even done lives on my
channel. I've only just put that to him now.
But
So if you think a Q&A would be useful about, you know, the logistic side of things as best we can. We are still quite new to this, being 7 months, but we can answer any questions or anything on the deeper side of it, like, you know, what I talk about and reflect on life and be more present and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 'cause the mental side isn't touched on much by any other channels.
No,
because,
I don't really see that.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm enjoying my new life, but they never say, you know, I've struggled with this and this, or I could do with help with this. You know, it's just not touched on, is it? So.
It's a different way of life. It still has its pros and cons, but we'd much rather be living this life, I think.
Yeah.
Fair to say?
Yeah.
Right, thank you so much for watching. Much love. Bye for now.
Bye.